Now then, it's time for perspective on today's programme. And my guest today says she feels ashamed to be safe. A thought I'm sure when you've heard her story you won't agree with, because until a few weeks ago, Shahrbanoo Sadat was a filmmaker based in Kabul, Afghanistan. She was very successful. Her 2016 film, Wolf and Sheep, won a prize at the Directors' Fortnight of the Cannes Film Festival. But as the Taliban swept across the country and reached the outskirts of Kabul, she knew it was time to leave. She had a harrowing escape, but made it here to Paris, where she's now fearful, of course, for those left behind, and critical as well of foreign governments for failing to do enough to help the Afghan people. Well, Shahrbanoo Sadat joins us now on the programme. Thanks very much for coming on to talk to us today. First of all, tell us about what happened when the Taliban arrived in Kabul and how you managed to escape.
You know, everything was so quick. I was surprised, like many other people living in Kabul, but I think Taliban themselves, they were also surprised, because no one really thinking that, they can take Kabul that quick and that easy with no fighting. The National Army, they had the order to not fight back. And suddenly, we saw Taliban soldiers with their vehicle with white flags of La ilaha illallah in the middle of the street of Kabul in downtown. So it was a great shock for everyone. And everyone, we are so scared, and we felt that we are entrapped because we didn't know what to do. The president was flew away, and the police, the National Army didn't fight, and we couldn't even go out because suddenly, like 100,000 people, they just ran to the airport. They wanted to go out, and then the big mess started to be there. So, yeah. And
you joined those people at the airport? You joined those people at the airport yourself?
Yes, but it took us a very long time, because for 3 days I was just, in my apartment, kind of a lockdown, because I could see outside from through my window to the street, but I couldn't really, I didn't see any women, and that scared me a lot, because I didn't know if I can go out, and if I'm going out, what should I wear? Shall I put a burqa on, or what shall I do? And usually my apartment is located in the downtown of Kabul, where there are a lot of cafes and restaurants, and it's crowded, but not on that 3 days. I couldn't see anyone, and the empty streets just freaked me out. And then after 3 days, I did an attempt to go to the airport, but it was failed, because that was the first time that I saw Taliban soldiers all over in each corner in the street, and they took the police vehicles, and they were trying to get control of the airport. We went there, we couldn't go, and then the next day, after 5 days, I think, we finally, we could go to the airport, but it took us 72 hours until we could pass to the American part of the airport.
And you were telling me just before we came on air that it's complete chancery that you've come here to Paris. It was just the flight that you managed to get on. What's happened since you arrived here in Paris? Where are you living now?
Yeah, my name was in many lists, in all possible lists, but the problem was I was a filmmaker, but I was not alone. I was living with my family, and then my actor, my cinematographer friend, all they came to my apartment, so I couldn't just leave alone, and I keep rejecting planes because I wanted to include also other people in the plane. And France was one of the first countries actually that allow us to come, 10 of us. So now we are living in a camp somewhere in north of Paris, and yeah.
And no idea what's going to happen next to you?
Yeah, I think now, I'm in a situation that I feel not stable, because I'm following also the news in Kabul. Also, part of my family, they are still living in my apartment in Kabul. So, I feel irrelevant being in Paris in a way. But yeah, for sure. I'm a filmmaker. There's no other way. We should be able to move forward and be hopeful.
And what are your fears for those people that you have been forced to leave behind?
It was a very horrible situation, because I was in a situation that I had to select people. And I didn't like to have that power, and I didn't like to select people. I wanted to take everyone, and not only the 20 people in my flat, but also, I received a lot of calls and messages and emails that people asking me to help them, to take them out. But I was powerless, and I couldn't do that much. And still, now that I'm here, I feel not very proud of myself. I think like I could do more, and yeah, and because I know, like, at the moment there are many artists, filmmakers, people who are vulnerable. They have stayed in Kabul just because the planes got filled with wrong people, because the crowd was just running to the airport thinking that the plane gonna take them, and mostly they were men actually who left family behind, and like very young men from I think between 16 to 25. They were shaping the crowd mostly. So they fill the planes, and then the people who were really in risk, they just stayed there. And at the moment, Kabul airport is closed.
And having to be in that position, I mean, I'm sure nobody would blame you for what you had to do. I mean, you did what you could do. But the whole situation that happened in Kabul, I mean, whose fault is that, do you think?
I think this is really the fault of international community and America, of course, NATO, and all countries. I think they have a hand in this crime because they left Afghanistan alone. They just hand democracy to terrorism. And I don't understand why people should go to the street to demonstrate and say that Taliban is a terrorist group. I don't know why people should say that. This is so clear. This is as clear as crystal. And I don't understand why governments, even there is this idea, this concern or this thought that Taliban has changed. I mean, I don't understand this. I think this is so clear. It's just politics. It just, it's just a mistake that international community leaving Afghanistan alone. And I don't know, maybe another 9/11 should happen until the world understand that the world is so small. Afghanistan problem, it's not Afghanistan problem, it's everyone's problem. And it's really crazy that a terrorist group can rule in a country.
So what do you say to people who say America in particular was there for 20 years? You could argue this, but they tried to do what they could do to help. And
I doubt.
And at that point, they felt they had to leave because they just couldn't carry on doing that indefinitely.
I doubt that they could do whatever they did in the last 20 years. I think they spent a lot of money, but they were also failed to to support, to shape a government, that can control Afghanistan, because the last governments of Afghanistan, all of them, the three governments, were so corrupted, and there were like a lot of American and foreigner NGOs and companies in Kabul, that in Afghanistan, in the entire Afghanistan, that they took a big part of the money that America was using in Afghanistan. They used it back, so they get it back, and it was like a big playground for for people doing their fights and doing their things. And also it was economically, it was a big market for war, like selling all kind of arms and everything. So I don't believe that they came to Afghanistan like a Superman to save Afghanistan or its people. I think it was more on their own benefit.
And what do you think foreign governments should do now? I mean, do you think they should engage with the Taliban, talk to the Taliban to try to find ways forward for the country?
Well, I think now the least that governments can do is to not confirm Taliban's government, because now they maybe they are changing that in that sense, that they are now more smart. They are aware of media power, and they want to that's why they do not harm people. I mean, they harm people. There are a lot of footages, but not as wild as they were in the 90s. So I think now they care about being recognized by other countries. They want to make something like Islamic Republic of Iran, and they want to shape that kind of government. That's why they are also giving a little tiny rights to women to go to university, of course, in a separated atmosphere, and also like this hijab that is, I don't know where this come from, because this is not Afghanistan dressing at all. So I think now they also care about like having diplomatic relationship with other countries. So they are really thinking of staying in Afghanistan for a very long time, like Iran, that is like 40 years that they are there, And for this reason, I think it is important that governments do not confirm them, do not approve the government, and just believe it that they are a terrorist group and it's dangerous, because no one can trust a terrorist group.
Great to talk to you on the programme today. We're out of time, unfortunately. But Shahrbanoo Sadat, thank you very much for coming in and talking to us. I know that I mentioned your film Wolf and Sheep. I know that you'd made the second part, and you're hoping to go on and make the third part as well. So best of luck with that. I hope you were able to do that, presumably away from Afghanistan. But all the best to you, and to, of course, all your friends and family as well. Thanks very much for coming in and talking to us here on France 24.